One planet, 7.3 billion people, only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Marc's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live. For more information on Marc's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marclainhart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.
Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in this beautiful planet of ours. This is Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, here for another Metaphysical Mocha Mondays. Monday morning, let's get the week started off with a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of education, a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of knowledge. I want to just say thank you for joining me this morning. Some of you may be feeling a little heavy this morning, you know, when it comes to what we've been going through in life, what's going on the planet, what's going on with our government system, what's going on with losing a celebrity like we did yesterday with the passing of Kobe Bryant. And I'm going to talk about that. That actually reflected today on what we can do when it's a difficult time, when we're grieving, when we're mourning, when we're feeling the empathy of losing something or someone. I'm going to give you some tips to help you out with the journey about what holding space actually means, something that I've learned in my journey with a lot of loss, a lot of trauma, a lot of tragedy, my own near-death experience. So today is going to be a little bit of a somber day. You know, there's just a lot going on. Today is the 75th anniversary of the of Auschwitz, of the Holocaust, of, you know, setting prisoners free from the concentration camps in World War II 75 years ago today. You know, there just seems to be a lot going on the planet. So I just want to create and hold space for the next half hour, if I may, before we get into the Healing Cafe. I'm your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector here in Seattle, Washington. Thank you for joining the show. If you're new to the show, let us know where you're from. Love to have you come on board every Monday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I give you a 30-minute inspirational show for the week ahead to get you just prepared, get you thinking, just celebrating life, Carpe Diem, right? Today is even just a reminder to kiss your loved one, say the things you need to say, because you never know when that journey is going to end on any given day. So it's a little bit of an emotional day for me, just with everything that's going on, my own journey, losing all the families that were impacted this morning, their first night's sleep, sleeping without their loved ones, all the families, including Kobe and his daughter. When you lose an icon like that, I think we can all relate, because even though we may not have met some of these celebrities or some of these leaders or inspirers or just celebrities, I guess we connect through them through media, through television. And for me, it was just kind of emotional yesterday, because I actually have an autographed rookie card from Kobe Bryant with his number 8 on it. I actually have that rookie card. And yesterday, watching Kareem Abdul-Jabbar give his heartfelt message to the family, it's interesting because I had met Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in Vegas, so it was kind of like I'd met both of these people, and it's just a surreal moment, and it reminds us that life is short. It reminds us that we don't know what any given day is going to bring to our journey, regardless of who we are. We all go to the same place. We all, like as Ram Dass used to say, we're all walking each other home, and there's a lot of truth to that. And I always talk and teach on that life is the magic in the moment, and not letting the future get out ahead of you, and not letting your past be a life sentence, more of a life lesson than anything. But when it comes to grief, something I've had a lot of experience with, unfortunately, as a grief counselor, as going through many of the journeys myself, I find that grief is usually evidence that who or what we have lost has been dearly cherished, held great significance, and made our life meaningful. And I think that's where people are really feeling the heaviness of today, in January, just for the fact that it's people like Kobe Bryant. It's people. I remember being in Boston when I heard that Princess Diana had died in a motor vehicle accident. I mean, the list goes on and on of people that have really inspired the world, people that have made a change in the world, and then they leave too soon. I was thinking of like Steve Irwin with his education about animals. I'm thinking about Tupac with his ability to bring his message from the streets and the hard life of growing up on the streets, and being able to go from poverty to fame, and be killed. Almost he was a rapper and a poet. For me, at the age of 25, I mean, the list can just go on and on and on. Kurt Cobain, Farrah Fawcett, Bernie Mac, Whitney Houston, Heath Ledger, Michael Jackson. Some actors I always think about. Amy Winehouse comes to mind. Robin Williams, the comedian. Paul Walker. There's just the list. George Michael, Prince was another one. And what happens is it's people like this. Carrie Fisher, for me, Star Wars was a bit impactful. Bill Paxton, who I loved as an actor. It just we can relate to it. It also brings to our pathways that we too are going to pass into the spirit world someday. That none of us can escape death and dying. And so today, just with the tragic event of what took place yesterday with that horrible helicopter crash, it just makes us all reflect. And it's just, I was just coming out of service. He got the news and just kind of looked at it a couple times, like, did it really happen? Is this one of those fake stories? Again, like what happened when I had heard about, Chris Cornell, or I'd heard about Chester Bennington, who I follow music. Tom Petty comes to mind. Who else? Anthony Bourdain, when I heard he had died, that just kind of set me back. Luke Perry. But it's just a reminder for those of us that are grieving and being able to grieve with the families during this time. It's a place about holding space for others during dark and difficult times, something that I learned in my counseling. And first and foremost, I always would say find a therapist if you're dealing with depression, anxiety, if you're dealing with any kind of suicidal thoughts, or if it just everything feels so heavy like you don't feel like there's a way out. There's many options. First, find a therapist. I always give the suicide prevention lifeline because I've lost a family member and a friend to suicide, so I understand what it means and what it feels like. That number is 1-800-273-TALK, 8255, 1-800-273-8255, or suicidepreventionlifeline.org. I'm going to be giving you some tips about how we can help people to hold space without trying to fix people during the grieving moment. Because, like I said, grief is evidence. It's evidence that a person like Kobe Bryant, something I was looking forward to the second half of his life, to be honest with you, because what he'd done in the first half of his life was amazing. His work ethics, his dedication, his drive. All of us could aspire to be more like somebody like a Kobe Bryant. And I think we're just, when it's people of such force that bring such inspiration and connection, whether through it's sports, movies, music, writing. We connect with that, and we always think that they're going to go on to live because they're so inspirational and powerful and dedicated. You think that they're going to go on and live a long life, and then it's cut short by such tragic events like this helicopter crash. But it's evidence. For me, grief is a noun, and it's evidence that who or what we have lost has been dearly cherished, held great significance, and made our life meaningful. And, from a fan perspective for Kobe, and I'm talking about this morning about holding space, he's one of those athletes that just came along that it didn't matter if they had a losing record. If you turned on the game, you never know what you were going to see with Kobe Bryant. You never know what kind of amazing thing that he would do from a fan. And I'm not a Lakers fan. I'm actually a Celtics fan. But anything that had to do with Kobe, he just won a Grammy. He was starting the second half of his life. Made 5 championship rings. But score 81 points in an NBA game, 61 points in the game that he retired. I mean, it's just Kobe's one of those people that you could always just turn the channel on and connect to for sports. And now I know some of you have, maybe it's a certain actress or a certain world leader. I think of when Michael Jackson passed or Whitney Houston passed. That was kind of wow. Or Tom Petty. It's just like wow. You just don't expect. These shocking passes, but it's just a reminder for all of us that are left behind to really carpe diem and to seize the day, and something that I call the magic in the moment. So if you'd be so kind to just join me in the magic of the moment, today's show, Metaphysical Mocha Mondays. Grab your coffee, grab your tea. Let's honor those that have passed before us. Let's honor those that have moved into the spirit world through natural means, through shocking means, through tragic means, by living our life and showing up to live today. That's something that I have to remind myself a lot when it comes to my own journey and what I've gone through. And there's a quote that really had stuck out about making sacrifices for your dream. And Kobe talked about this, and he talked about we can all be masters at our craft, but you have to make a choice. What I mean by that is there is an inherent sacrifice that comes along with that. Family time, hanging out with friends, being a great friend, being a great son, nephew, whatever the case may be. There are sacrifices that come along with making that decision. That was what his dream was. That's how he connected. That's why we're remembering Kobe Bryant today, because of his dedication, because of his passion, because of his drive. And it's the quote that I was looking for, where he talked about reality gives us nothing back, and there's a lot of truth to that. It's just when I heard this news yesterday, it's just so shocking for those of us that are sports fans, because I grew up with Kobe Bryant. Like I said, I have an autographed rookie Kobe Bryant number 8 card sitting down in my safe, and signed by him. And you get these icons, and when they pass, you're stunned. But it also brings about your own mortality, about your own journey. So there's one site that I would recommend that may be helpful. David Kessler is really good when it comes to grief. Some of you may know him and follow him. He's got a book called Finding Meaning, and he's got a website called grief.com. I would recommend, looking at that, the 5 stages of grief and what that can be. But Finding Meaning, which he calls the 6th stage of grief, is a really great book. I highly recommend it. When it comes to holding space for somebody, what does that mean? What is, something, when I was, going through my funerals, and my brothers and my father-in-law and my uncle and my cousin and my grandma, everybody would say, oh, it gets better over time. And I found that grief doesn't have a schedule. There is no time. It's been 20 plus years for my brothers, and it still hurts. Just like the month of January is still a tough month for me because they both passed in January. But one of the things that I found through my counseling, through biofeedback, through hypnotherapy, through grieving counseling, was holding space for others. And that's where a counselor can be really beneficial, because a counselor is somebody that can be non-judgmental, hold space for you by being empathetic, being loving. And your family and friends can also do this for you guys. It doesn't have to be a counselor, but we can all practice loving kindness. Loving kindness is a term that's rooted, if you follow Buddhist tradition, it appears in other religions and other secular traditions as well when it comes to loving kindness. But it's described as present moment cultivation of compassion and love for another living being, the earth, and or ourselves. And that's what practicing loving kindness. So that's the first thing I would say, is practice loving kindness and holding space for somebody. When we can use deep listening skills, this has a very powerful effect on somebody that's grieving, and all of us are grieving. Like I said, I woke up pretty heavy this morning from the consciousness, the ripple effect. As an empath, as a sensitive, I could feel. It's also the anniversary of the liberation of the Jews in the concentration camps from Auschwitz 75 years ago. So some of you maybe watching the show that are still alive can resonate with that energy. What it's like to lose somebody iconic in society, somebody that just really impact our lives, where they came through TV or social media, and you were just fascinated by what they said or what they did, whether they were Princess Diana, or whether they were Steve Irwin. Just kind of comes to mind because he was stung by a stingray, and he died doing what he loved, I guess. So there's something to be said about that. Dying doing what you love, I guess. If I'm gonna go out, I'd have to think about how I'm gonna go out. What's my last breath gonna look like? But it gets us thinking, and it's times like this where we really think about our own journey, our own life path. How can we help others when we're grieving ourselves? And some of the things that I found is holding space for people. And what I'm doing today is I'm holding space for our planet and all the changes that our planet's going through. I'm holding space for the families that were impacted yesterday, because it wasn't just Kobe and his daughter. There's a pilot. There were 2 other families where 2 family members, one family died, and then 3 members in the other family died. A total of 9 people perished yesterday in a horrible accident. It's sad that it had to happen, but at the same time, I look at how many people enter the planet and how many people exit the planet. It's about 50,000 people a day exit the planet, and about 300,000 enter the planet on a daily basis. And it's just unfortunate, but it's just a reminder for me about Carpe Diem and seizing the day, and doing what I can and holding space. So today I'm holding space for the families. I'm holding space for you. I'm holding space for our planet. I'm holding space for our government and our president and our Senate and our Congress to make the right decisions moving forward. I'm holding space for peace, and I'm holding space for those impacted by the fires, the volcanoes, the earthquakes, all around the world. So just holding space today, and sharing with you what it means to hold space. And holding space is just being there. It's listening. It's showing loving kindness, which is compassion and love for another living being, for yourself. Using deep listening skills to listen, because again, when we hold space for somebody, I remember going through some of my trials and tribulations when it came to death and dying, and people would try to fix me, and that can actually cause more isolation. People don't know sometimes how to act when it comes to death and dying, and they have the best intentions. They do. They show up with a great heart to help. They think they're helping, but by maybe trying to fix us and try to tell us how to grieve, can actually cause more isolation. So I learned having unconditional, what we call positive regard. It's similar to loving kindness, but it's unconditional. What we call unconditional positive regard is a practice explained by Carl Rogers, in which another person holds another person with absolute regard. This is the foundation found in almost all healing therapeutic relationships. The practice rests on knowledge that no matter what the person has done or who the person is, the listener holds them with deep respect, compassion, and positive regard. This is called unconditional positive regard. And it's something that we can do all right now together as strangers, as friends, as colleagues, as family, to hold this family in love, in light, and to support them during these dark and difficult times. I can think about, as a medium, I can see the transition. I can feel the transition of that helicopter hitting the hillside at a very high speed. I do feel that the passings were very instantaneous, no suffering, but I feel that. And now I also then think about the families waking up today without their loved ones and planning a funeral and what music is going to be played and who's going to show up and what do we say and how do you honor them the best way that they would want. And there's just a lot going on when it's these dark times. It's the dark night of the soul, as I call it. But I also found through my own journey, Rumi talked about this a lot, that the cure for the pain is the pain. To feel the pain, to have grief, which is an internal process, but also to mourn, which is an external process of expression. Whatever is right for you in expressing your mourning, but don't hold it in. Share it with others. Share that burden. Share that heavy energy of grief and death and dying with others. And what we can do because we've all, if you're watching my show or the work I do, I talk about honoring your grief all the time, and we can show up by helping others, by holding space without trying to fix anything. Just sit with what is, be a good, deep listener, show positive, unconditional positive regard, practice loving kindness, practice it in your own life. Allow that person to, if you're holding space for somebody, this is something I do with my spiritual development group. I tell them all the time that we hold space for people. We don't heal people. We hold space for people to heal themselves. And sometimes we just need to allow that person to go through their process, whatever their process. We may need to hold them. We may need to cry with them because we can express and empathize. If they need to cry, if they need to scream, if they need to yell. I think that's I think that's important, and it comes back from an interview that Kobe did in 2008. He talked about positive attitude. Attitude is everything when it comes to honoring our path. And he says, have a good time. Life is too short to get bogged down and be discouraged. You have to keep moving. You have to keep going. Put one foot in front of the other, smile, and just keep on rolling. And those are the words from an interview that Kobe did back in 2008. And there's a lot of truth to that. He talked about, in his game of basketball, his love for basketball, be sad, be mad, be frustrated, scream, cry, sulk. When you wake up, you will think it was just a nightmare, only to realize it's all too real. You will be angry and wish for the day back, the game that play back, but reality gives nothing back, and nor should you. And that was on the game of basketball, but for today, it's also on the game of life. It's also about we get sad, we get mad, we get frustrated, we want to scream, we want to cry, we want to sulk. I'm even trying to change my attitude about not sulking during the month of January, because for me, I've always dreaded January since my brother's 20 years ago. I've been dealing with this for 20 years with survivor's guilt during the month of January. And I've got to, learn from my own journey and not sulk and wake up realizing that it wasn't a nightmare, that it really did happen. But knowing, wishing I could maybe have it back, but knowing that I can't, and knowing that reality is not going to give me anything back, and I need to move forward. I need to smile and put that foot forward. Guys, I can tell you there are days when just putting on your clothes is tough. Rolling out of bed, putting on your clothes, showing up is a tough thing. And this is where we, get into depression and anxiety and suicide. The CDC, I pay attention to what the CDC puts out on their reports. And since 2016, nearly 45,000 lives have gone to suicide. That's a 30% increase since 1999. So in the last 20 years, we've actually seen a 30% increase in suicides. And that tells me that's a heaviness within society, consciousness, what life is doing and how life is treating us, the reality of what we live in. But one of the studies that I found from the CDC called Vital Signs, again, it's a measurement. I track the reports when it comes to suicide, whether it's veteran suicides or just anybody in society with suicides. And we found that 54% of half the people who died by suicide did not have a known mental health condition. Think about that for a second. We talk about mental health in today's society, but 54% from the report in 2018, 54% of those did not have a mental health issue. And a lot of that's just that burden. Carrying a burden, wanting the pain to stop. I know for my cousin, when he committed suicide, he just wanted the pain to stop. He just wanted to find a way out. So by showing up and holding space for others, it can actually help somebody more than you know. Breath is important. Allow them to express how they need to. If they need to scream and yell, you let them scream and yell and cry. Breathing is a huge part of life, guys. It starts with the breath, your last breath, your first breath. Check in with your breath every so often. Just make sure that you're breathing to remain grounded as well, because the mind during trauma, the mind during grieving, tragic events can really take you to places you don't need to go. If you become ungrounded while holding space for someone who needs it, they may find it difficult to trust the space and you. So if you're going to really hold space for somebody, if you're going to show up and say, you know what, I'm just here for you today, just like I'm holding space for this family. They don't know me, but I know the globe is holding them up right now. And I'm going to just sit with what is. I'm going to allow them to process and grieve the way they need to. I'm going to have unconditional positive regard and loving kindness for all involved. That ripple effect that ripples out and impacts everybody around the globe. I'm going to breathe for them. I'm going to breathe true, and I'm going to breathe deep. I'm going to be grounded, and I'm going to just hold space and hold energy for them. That's what holding space for others in difficult and dark times can do. Be present with yourself as well when you are sitting for somebody. When you're holding space, you must be willing to be present with yourself as well, and you'll find that there's usually a sense of healing that comes from that. You will be hard pressed to open and be honest with one another, but showing up is more about that person, not about you. Practice non-judgment. There's no judgment when you're holding space for another person. And most importantly, guys, don't try to fix it, especially for guys. Maybe a little bit of seasoning and age and wisdom has helped me with that. But I used to try to fix things. And that's what I did when I was in the Coast Guard, fixing things. Fire service, being recalled to other people's traumas and tragedies, try to fix things, make them better. But when it comes to grieving and death and dying, you can't fix it. When someone is in pain, we try to fix it for them, and like I said, it just makes it a little bit worse. It makes it a little bit, I don't know why there we go. My monitor is a little, I didn't feel like I had a lot of color. I felt like, why is my monitor not showing me a lot of color? So hopefully that brings a little bit more color. Now it's not so heavy, it's a little bit more light. But when we try to fix things, people show up with the best intentions to try to fix things with their own past history or their own words, and it can actually make a person feel more isolated. So above all, just show up, be there for them, with the person, your friend, your family. Don't try to fix the feelings. They don't need fixing, trust me. And the only way over the pain is through it. The cure for the pain is the pain, to address it. It's a technique that I had come up with when I was going through heavy loss from the murder trials of my brother to brain cancer. I call it the FAR technique, FAARR. The farther you can use this, the farther you'll go on your path when it comes to grieving. Feel it, have awareness to it, acknowledge it, respond to it however you want to respond to it. Sometimes you don't need to respond because no response is a response, and then release it. And you'll have to go through this FAR technique several times throughout your journey. I've done it over 20 years now, dealing with death and dying. But practicing the elements that I talked about, practicing non-judgment, being grounded, breath, sit with what is, having unconditional positive regard and deep listening skills, and just being there holding space with empathy and non-judgmental and love can really help somebody in the healing process. And it can help you and your journey if you're feeling this heaviness that I felt this morning when I woke up. I woke up and I was like, man, today is just heavy. Like just a really bad spiritual hangover is how I would describe today. So I meditated, thought about today's message. I was actually going to talk about knowledge. Knowledge neglect is what I was going to actually talk about because I watch a show called Brain Games, and it's a fabulous show. But I got, with everything that took place, I felt like I needed to talk about this today. So if you find yourself in need of pure and clear attention of unconditional positive regard, and it's not available in any of your support systems that you have, like I said, I gave that number for the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-TALK, 1-800-273-8255, suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Another website called grief.com, which is an excellent David Kessler. Some of you may know him. Make sure to check that out. I'm going to put a link from my podcast. I'll put that in the link field right now for you to check out on iTunes. It's what I talked about, honoring your grief and what that looks like. So I'll put that in the description field right now, and I'll put some other stuff here. But we're going to get ready for the Healing Cafe. I just thought I'd share that with you today about some things that you can do about holding space for others during dark and what I want to say. I want to say during dark and depressing, difficult times, shock and awe, all of that takes place. So join me over in the Healing Cafe. I'll give you your crystal over there, just because it's 8:30 and I want to start the Healing Cafe. And I'll give you your totem animal spirit for healing. Well, okay, I'll just do it real quick. Number for this week is 87. Synchronicities. Pay attention to synchronicities. The crystal for this week is called Zinsight. Zincite, Zinsight. It's a very powerful stone that helps with healing and creativity, but it's also a fiery stone that can aid in the manifestation process and re-energizing the energy nervous system. The cow is your totem animal spirit. The cows are held sacred in India, and the cow is, when you see the cow in your journey this week, it's just a reminder for nourishment. Like, you think of milk, you think of nourishment, you think of, some of you may look at a cow as a cheeseburger, hamburger. I don't. I actually look at them as a very gentle, loving animal. I don't personally drink milk. I actually drink almond or hemp milk these days, but I was raised on milk. But it's just a reminder to have nourishment, to have healing, and to just take it one day at a time. Take a breath. Find joy in the day. Carpe Diem. And most importantly, hold space for others. Hold space for yourself. That can really be very important for your journey and, in your healing. Honor your grief, as I like to say. So don't try to fix it. Just hold space. Hold space for others. Holding that space or creating that container can be especially helpful when someone is in deep grief, struggling with unresolved trauma, or in the throes of depression. Those are all real things, guys, and a lot of people suffer from all of those. So you can help others by holding space for yourself, our planet, and others that need it. So I want to say thank you for joining me today. If you want to stick around, we're going to come back in the Healing Cafe. This episode goes over to my YouTube channel, so make sure to get on my YouTube channel, subscribe so you can catch all of my live shows, whether it's Metaphysical Mocha Mondays, or whether it is my radio show called Inspired Living Radio. I'll put the link in the description field if you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I've got hiking videos, diving videos. I call it spiritual awesomeness or soul adventures. So thank you for hanging out with me today on Metaphysical Mocha Mondays. Enjoy your week. Enjoy your cup of coffee, your tea. Take it one day at a time, and most importantly, dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live. And I was going to leave us with a Kobe Bryant quote, but I don't. Let's see. Let's see if there's a quote that I could leave with. I'm just going to go back with what he talked about. Reality gives nothing back, and nor should you. So live your life, honor those that have passed on to the spirit world, and most importantly, live life like it's your last day on the planet, because you never know. It could be. So if you want to work with me, visit marclainhart.com, internet search the Intuitive Prospector. I'll be back here on the Facebook page, the Intuitive Prospector, so make sure to share, subscribe, like, all that good stuff, so we can continue our soul adventures together. And until our next soul adventure together, be kind, be caring, be compassionate. I'll see you next Monday for another Metaphysical Mocha Mondays here on the Intuitive Facebook page. Have a great day. Stick around here. I'll be back in 1 minute for the Healing Cafe right here on this page, where I'll have a direct conversation with all of you. Free readings. I got some pretty cool stuff for today, some affirmations for you, and we're going to have a lot of fun of inspiration and really bring the energy up and get you living and inspired for this week. So have a great rest of your week, everybody. Namaste.